28th, 2024. Memorial of St. Irenaeus, Bishop and Martyr.
A reading from the second book of Kings. In the 10th month of the 9th year of Zedekiah's reign, on the 10th day of the month, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and his whole army advanced against Jerusalem, and camped around it, and built siege walls on every side. The siege of the city continued until the 11th year of Zedekiah. On the 9th day of the 4th month, when famine had gripped the city, and the people had no more bread, the city walls were breached. Then the king and all the soldiers left the city by night, through the gate between the two walls that was near the king's garden. Since the Chaldeans had the city surrounded, they went in the direction of the Arabah. But the Chaldean army pursued the king and overtook him in the desert near Jericho, abandoned by his whole army. The king was therefore arrested and brought to Riblah, to the king of Babylon, who pronounced sentence on him. He had Zedekiah's sons slain before his eyes. Then he blinded Zedekiah, bound him with fetters, and had him brought to Babylon. On the 7th day of the 5th month, this was in the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, Nebuzaradan, captain of the bodyguard, came to Jerusalem as the representative of the king of Babylon. He burned the house of the Lord, the palace of the king, and all the houses of Jerusalem. Every large building was destroyed by fire. Then the Chaldean troops, who were with the captain of the guard, tore down the walls that surrounded Jerusalem. Then Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, led into exile the last of the people remaining in the city, and those who had deserted to the king of Babylon, and the last of the artisans. But some of the country's poor, Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, left behind as vine dressers and farmers. The word of the Lord.
The responsorial psalm. The response is, "Let my tongue be silenced if I ever forget you." By the streams of Babylon we sat and wept when we remembered Zion. On the aspens of that land we hung up our harps. Let my tongue be silenced if I ever forget you. Though there our captors asked of us the lyrics of our songs, and our despoilers urged us to be joyous, sing for us the songs of Zion. Let my tongue be silenced if I ever forget you. How could we sing a song of the Lord in a foreign land? If I forget you, Jerusalem, may my right hand be forgotten. Let my tongue be silenced if I ever forget you. May my tongue cleave to my palate if I remember you not, if I place not Jerusalem ahead of my joy. Let my tongue be silenced if I ever forget you.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. When Jesus came down from the mountain, great crowds followed him. And then a leper approached, did him homage, and said, "Lord, if you wish, you can make me clean." He stretched out his hand, touched him, and said, "I will do it. Be made clean." His leprosy was cleansed immediately. Then Jesus said to him, "See that you tell no one, but go, show yourself to the priest, and offer the gift that Moses prescribed. That will be proof for them." The Gospel of the Lord.
Happy Friday to you and your family. I've arrived back safely here in Detroit, Michigan. As you can see, I'm not in some abbatial palace somewhere. Just right here in my office. Today we celebrate a special saint, Saint Irenaeus. Tomorrow we celebrate two other great saints. I have to make a personal note. Part of my reconversion was based on reading the early church, the fathers of the early church. In a special way, some of the great, what we call the sub-apostolic age, those bishops and monks who wrote about the spiritual life or on theology or the life of the church in the early church. And that really helped me in my early reconversion to the faith. And today, St. Irenaeus is a special saint in that regard, because St. Irenaeus, and should also make another brief note, and I'm sorry this video might be a little bit long, but as you can see, it kind of hits my heart. You can see something about the early church in terms of unity that perhaps we can learn today. It's true, in our contemporary society and church, we live in such, very fast times, and in 11 hours I can make it over to Rome, or in 9 hours I can make it back, or whatever it is. We can fly here, we can fly there, we can video chat with someone in an instant. And it would seem like in the early church that wasn't the case, but in fact it was the opposite. Saint Irenaeus was from Smyrna, which is modern-day Turkey, and he moved from Smyrna, from modern-day Turkey, to become the bishop of Lyon in France. Now, that's amazing. It really shows you not just the unity of theology in the early church, but the unity of practice within the early church. That there was this real organization, this worldwide organization called the Church, or the Catholic Church, or the one true faith, that these Christians worked in. And we see that very clearly in Irenaeus. One of the other points about Irenaeus is his fight against the various heresies of the time. Heresies are false teachings about the faith. One of the most important ones was his fight against the Gnostics, and I hope I'm saying that correctly. At least in Italian you do gno, so Gnostics. What were the Gnostics all about? Well, they taught that the world was irredeemably wicked. So the world could not be redeemed. It was once created by God, but once the fall happened, it was irredeemably wicked. And Irenaeus said, well, hold on. We have someone named Jesus, who was not just the Messiah in the worldly sense. He was also the Son of God, the second person of the Blessed Trinity, who died on the cross and redeemed humanity, therefore redeeming the world. And that was a very important point. Irenaeus fought against many other heresies, but that was one of the most important. If you ever want to read a really good book about the various heresies that Irenaeus had to face, there's a theologian. His name was Father Hans Urs von Balthasar. As you know, Benedict XVI, a good friend of Benedict XVI, mentioned in his book, I encourage you to read his book, called The Scandal of the Incarnation. And in that book, you'll see the various heresies that Irenaeus had to fight during his time. Which leads me a little bit to the gospel today. Today we see that leopard who is sick. Jesus comes down the mountain. He doesn't stay on the mountain. He doesn't say the world is not to be redeemed. The world is so wicked, I'm just going to stay up here on the mountain and live up here with my Father, in communion with my Father. But I'll come down and do what? Heal someone. I'll redeem them. And that's the beauty that we have in Jesus' incarnation, which is a scandal in a way to the world that's wicked. Because how is it that he can redeem us? Well, he redeems us because he is God. He is actually God, the one who existed before existence existed. And through his divinity and communion with his humanity, we have been redeemed. And so we give thanks. We give thanks for men like Irenaeus, and women too, who would have died professing the true faith in the early church. We give thanks for their testimony, for their writing, that we might continue in a special way praying for the gift of unity, that we might be just as united as the early church today. Amen. Peace.